being an astronaut has got to be one of the most awesome careers that you can go into, and I would personally do it, even if NASA or ESA, whoever, didn't pay me. I would still do the job because I think that's how much of an awesome job it is. And what's even more interesting is now the European Space Agency are looking for astronauts, and I think it's such an awesome opportunity for people who do meet the requirements, given the fact the last time they called for astronauts was in 2008. So it's a pretty big deal, and in this video that's the reason why I wanted to go over some of the requirements and what it really takes to be an astronaut, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you have not seen any of my videos today, not today but ever, my name is Saga and I'm currently an aerospace engineering student from the University of Sheffield. Actually, fun fact for you, my university used to have an astronaut who used to study here. So her name is Helen Sharman and she was one of the first, well, she was the first British astronaut. So yeah, there you go. Thought to throw that little flex in there about my university and astronaut people. So yeah, I guess there you go, now you know it. So before I go into what the requirements are of being an astronaut, I'm going to just cover sort of the brief overview of what astronauts generally do. So aside from their space missions, so where they actually have to go into space, astronauts spend a lot of their time training for these missions and also working with the space agencies to prepare future missions and how to improve anything related to human spaceflight. And that sort of covers really what an astronaut's role is. On top of this technical side, they do have to do outreach and stuff like that to, for example, school kids and the general public about space and inspire the next generation of people who are likely to become astronauts or engineers and anyone related to that space industry really. So astronauts do have a very wide range of things they need to carry out when they are working for a space agency. So I mean, if you couldn't have already guessed, an astronaut is a pretty amazing career, and so the requirements to get in are also pretty high up there. So on the base level, so the basic requirements needed to even be eligible to apply for especially this European Space Agency recruitment drive, you would need to have at least a master's degree in a STEM subject, or you could have a medicine degree, or you could have a degree as a test pilot. And that summarizes the education aspect of it. On top of this, you would need 3 years of experience in the previously mentioned areas, and on top of this, you need to be fluent in English. And also it helps if you know another language, or if you even have like a further degree like a PhD, so they also factor in. But basically, you need these sets of requirements to even be eligible to apply. So the basic requirements, I mean, they're pretty well known by now. But what I think is the most interesting side are like the desired requirements that ESA has. So the desired requirements are all to do with what they would like an astronaut candidate to have on top of these basic requirements. So the first desired experience that ESA is looking for is field experience. So this is where you would typically spend 6 weeks and more sort of in an extreme environment. So whether it be like a jungle, the desert, like polar expeditions, mountaineering, or even high atmosphere, stuff like that. So I think there's like this requirement from ESA to have been involved with like extreme conditions and surviving like in expeditions and things like that, which makes sense because, you know, space is a pretty tough environment to survive in. So I mean, if someone has experience in that sort of area, then, you know, happy days. That's a good asset to have on top of obviously your basic education and experience. I think this is probably one of the most fun experiences that someone could go on to, because imagine saying, oh yeah, I climbed Everest, and then now you get to become an astronaut. So that's something that's pretty cool, I think. And then the next one is you have to have experience working with machinery and in like a control room sort of environment. Basically, you have to have experience not working in an office only, and ESA values this a lot as one of their other added desirable requirements. So leadership is also another desirable requirement that ESA has, because if you are working on the space station, maybe there's times when you do have to be in that leadership position. So it's always useful to have a leadership experience that when you're applying for an astronaut role, because then you can I guess showcase that you are competent at being a leader. The other thing and the next desirable experience is kind of related to the first one I mentioned with extreme environments, but this one is more so related to being exposed to working in environments which is high pressure and high intensity. For example, being a firefighter, being part of a mountain rescue team, being part of a scuba diving team, and also where you have to work with a large team in a very difficult environments. For example, even being an airline pilot or a ship crew, those also count as high intensity sort of team responsible environments, where if you get stuff wrong, the consequences are pretty bad. So if you're used to this sort of environment, then that's also something that ESA greatly looks into. Something that I didn't realize was a desirable requirement was the experience of being a test subject for experiments like as yourself. So where either you have had tests performed on you, or like you have carried out tests on other human beings as well. So this is kind of interesting. I didn't think about this as a desirable requirement as an astronaut, but it makes sense because some of the activities astronauts have to do is test their own bodies in space. So sometimes it could be taking blood samples and various other things. So I mean, I guess it makes sense if you're used to testing on humans or being tested on, then it's a good experience to have that, and ESA definitely sees that as a valuable asset to have. Living in other countries is also another great asset to have. So for example, if you've stayed and worked in other countries for more than 2 months, it's always great because as an astronaut you're going to be traveling, well, I mean, it's self-explanatory. As an astronaut you're going to have to travel to other countries and off planet Earth. So I guess having experiences of living away from home for long periods of time, it makes sense that this is a desirable asset for an astronaut. I mean, if you're not comfortable with living away from home, then maybe being an astronaut is not the career path for you. But yeah, I mean, ultimately there's a lot more requirements than what it appears to be an astronaut, because you can meet the basic requirements, but it's very unlikely that you would be selected if you don't at least have one of the additional requirements that I just mentioned. Because if you're going to be selected to do an exceptional role, it's highly likely that you would have done exceptional things before you even applied to be an astronaut. And so that brings the end of this video. And if you do meet the eligibility requirements, so like the basic ones I mentioned earlier, then definitely go ahead and apply if you're like eligible to apply for the ESA recruitment drive. And I think it's such a great opportunity. I wish I could apply, but unfortunately the work experience side of things does not help because I'm still at university right now. But if someone's watching this and they have the right requirements, then go ahead, apply, and it'd be cool to become an astronaut, I guess. So you might as well. And that brings the end to this video, so I want to say thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed it, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, comment down below as well if you do or don't meet the eligibility requirements of being an astronaut, and also what are your thoughts of being an astronaut. Would you think it's a cool career, or do you think it's pretty scary, or what? It'd be great to know. So thanks a lot for watching, and I shall see you in another video. Goodbye.